Welcome everybody, and thank you so much for coming tonight. Can everybody hear me?
I just don't see where it's going.
Well, that's a bit of entertainment for you tonight. Thank you so much for coming. It's really a pleasure to see so many diverse and beautiful faces sharing with us tonight. For those who do not know me, my name is Sam, and I am the event director at QueerTech. And I am joined tonight by an amazing panel of people that are here to share their experiences with you. So before we get started, a few housekeeping items. We are recording this event. We are taking photos of this event, and our lovely videographer, Naomi, is going to have a pod, actually. We're going to be recording a pod for our social media and YouTube channel afterwards, so I will be looking for those of you in the audience that have a lot to say, and we will approach you about participating in the pod if you like, entirely voluntary. Un mot sur la langue, c'est un environnement bilingue et j'encourage tout le monde de parler, de s'exprimer dans la langue de leur choix. So, super bilingual environment. Myself, I am not a native English or French speaker, so and I will do my best to keep it as bilingual as possible, as will our panelists. But don't be shy if you're francophone. Speak in French, we love French. If you're Anglophone, speak in English, we love English. I will like to now introduce and talk about Fondation Emergence. They are one of our partners for this event tonight, and we could not have made this possible without them. I'm not going to speak too much about the Fondation. I'm going to let them say so. But what's important to take away is that they do amazing work, and I encourage you all to learn more and get involved with the Fondation Emergence. As well, where are we? This amazing office, Google in Montreal, and our invaluable resource at Google, Christine. I would like to thank you for all of your hard work, dedication to making this event happen. Round of applause. And I would like to invite her up on stage. So, if you'd like to say a few words.
Absolutely, thank you, Sam.
You're welcome.
Good evening, my name is Christine. I go by the pronouns she, her. Welcome this evening. We're really excited to have you here at Google. It's a great opportunity for us. It's been in the works for a while with Noufel and Sam, and so we're happy that this day is finally taking root. There are a few Googlers that are here this evening, so please feel free to mingle with them and ask them any questions and get to know one another. A couple of housekeeping items on our end. We do ask that you stay on this ground floor and not go upstairs. The doors are locked at any rate, so there's no access, but still, it's just, let's be googly and all stay together. The same thing with our area out in the mingle area. If you can just stick to the mingle area, other than if you're going to the washroom or you're in this tech talk. So I say those are really our two focus areas, are right in here, or just out in the little mingle area. You'll notice that we have put out some non-alcoholic and some alcoholic beverages. We do ask that you, if you're going to consume alcohol this evening, that you be cautious of your consumption and you be just aware that we're in a sensitive environment, and please be mindful of that. Also, the food is out there for you to enjoy, and there are gluten and nuts, so please, and some dairy, so do please be very careful if you have any intolerances to those. I cannot guarantee that those items do not have allergy-sensitive items. For our washrooms, if you go and see the security agent, he can show you how to access the washrooms. The codes normally have now been put right at each door, so you no longer need to ask for the badge to access the washrooms. I apologize, we do not have gender-neutral washrooms available for you this evening. We do have some on premises, but they're in a restricted area that I cannot give you access to. But if you need please feel free to use either washroom of your choice. Other than that, we do ask that you keep the photos in this room, please. The photos out in the main area are prohibited, and we ask that you not take them there. You do have a photographer and a videographer that are doing excellent photos this evening, so you can also maybe just trust the process. Other than that, I wish you really a wonderful evening. This is a great opportunity to mingle, and I'm around for anything if you so choose to speak with me. My name is Christine, and my role here is kind of like an office manager, so if you have anything that's non-tech, I might actually be able to answer it. If you get technical on me, I'm definitely going to have a button. Have a good evening, everyone.
And now, I'd like to bring Laurent up on stage to talk about Fondation Emergence and their awesome work. So I'll hand over to Laurent.
Merci, je me présente Laurent Gros, directeur général de la Fondation Emergence. Donc, je remercie QueerTech pour l'invitation, merci Sam pour l'organisation, merci Google pour nous recevoir ce soir, et tout particulièrement pour souligner la Journée internationale contre l'homophobie et la transphobie. Donc, je prends quelques minutes de votre temps pour vous présenter un peu la Journée internationale contre l'homophobie et la transphobie, qui est le programme principal de la Fondation Emergence. C'est la Fondation Emergence qui a créé cette journée-là pour la première fois au monde. Donc, c'est une fierté, oui. C'est une fierté montréalaise qui a vu le jour en 2003. Et par la suite, maintenant, c'est plus d'une trentaine de pays qui soulignent vraiment cette journée-là. Et dans des pays où l'homosexualité est criminalisée, c'est à cette période-là qu'on tient des prides ou des actions politiques et pour faire avancer les droits ou faire avancer la cause. Donc, je veux juste... oui, OK. Donc, ça, c'est notre première campagne en 2003, choquant pour qui. Ce qui est drôle de cette campagne-là, c'est qu'elle est encore abondamment commandée. Nous, on distribue des milliers d'affiches partout au Canada, en anglais et en français, et on nous commande aussi du matériel à l'international. Vous avez ici un exemple de notre campagne en 2017. Donc, c'était un bébé avec un bracelet qui était homosexuel écrit sur le bracelet. Et le message était « On ne choisit pas son orientation sexuelle ». Le pape s'était prononcé contre cette campagne. Et vous avez ici une version roumaine de la campagne qui a été imprimée sur une bâtisse de 4 étages. Puis il y a eu évidemment du vandalisme qui barrait les mots pour dire « On choisit son orientation sexuelle ». Donc ça, c'était notre campagne de 2007. En 2013, la diversité sexuelle et de genre, ça rapporte. Donc, pour rappeler qu'un milieu de travail inclusif, on valorise la diversité, ça favorise les employés qui se sentent à l'aise, bien, et ça favorise la fidélité et la productivité dans l'entreprise. En 2014, c'était les couples homoparentaux. Donc, souvent, les enfants ils sont victimes d'homophobie par association parce que les parents ils sont LGBT. Donc, ils peuvent vivre de la transphobie ou de l'homophobie. Donc, nous, c'était de rappeler que les enfants, méritent le respect, tout comme les parents, mais il faut vraiment porter une attention particulière sur eux. Notre campagne en 2018, qui rappelait qu'encore 72 États criminalisent l'homosexualité. Bon, grâce à notre campagne, quelques mois plus tard, il y a 2 États qui ont décriminalisé, l'Inde et l'autre, je m'en souviens plus, je l'ai dit, mais j'ai comme un blanc. Mais c'était donc 3 jeunes qui provenaient de pays comme la Tunisie, le Burundi et la Russie, et qui racontaient en fait leur vécu, comme quoi qu'ils ont dû fuir leur pays à cause des lois qui criminalisaient l'homosexualité. Dans le cas de la Russie, c'est pas une criminalisation, mais c'est une criminalisation de la propagande homosexuelle. C'est quand même assez large. Je veux dire, tenir la main de son conjoint, c'est considéré comme de la propagande. Et cette année, donc vous avez vu la vidéo qu'on a présentée au tout début. Vous pouvez la retrouver sur le site de la Fondation Emergence, comme sur YouTube, sur nos réseaux, qui dénonce en fait les violences en ligne. Selon, vous ne le voyez peut-être pas parce que c'est un peu petit sur l'image sur l'écran, mais 73% des personnes LGBTQ+, ont été attaquées ou harcelées en ligne. Donc c'est un sondage de VNP Mentor, vraiment une firme très réputée. Donc, vous remarquerez, vous avez reconnu le profil Facebook, mais en fait, on voit une vraie personne pour rappeler que les violences en ligne affectent des vraies personnes. Donc, tous les propos, tous les commentaires, c'est pas juste finalement dans le néant informatique là, ou du web, ça touche des vraies personnes. Puis on dénonce en fait le double standard. Comme vous le voyez dans la vidéo, il y a des propos qui sont intolérés dans le réel, mais en ligne, on les laisse là depuis plusieurs années et des fois, c'est vraiment des appels à la haine. Donc, nous, cette année, on voulait porter attention là-dessus et le dénoncer, puis rappeler aux institutions, aux autorités comme la police, que ces propos-là sont intolérables. Donc, ah oui, il reste. Ça vous démontre un peu l'évolution de notre action au cours des dernières années. Les picots mauves sont les activités communiquées à la Fondation pour le 17 mai. Les picots bleus sont ceux de l'année dernière. Et les verts, c'est cette année. Donc, partout au Canada, puis maintenant aux États-Unis, les gens nous communiquent des activités de sensibilisation qu'ils mènent pour le 17 mai. Donc, Google, on va vous ajouter dans la liste. Si vous menez aussi des activités au cours de l'année prochaine ou des années subséquentes, on vous invite à les communiquer à la Fondation. Comme ça, les gens se sentent moins seuls et ils peuvent être inspirés aussi de votre activité. Donc, je vous remercie d'être là ce soir. Si vous voulez du matériel, il y en a à la sortie. Puis, merci pour tout et bonne journée internationale contre l'homophobie.
Thank you so much, Dohan, for that presentation. And it's really inspiring work what Fondation has done. And as a show of solidarity, QueerTech will be switching all of its banners across social media to this year's campaign. And we encourage all QueerTech members to do so for the month of May. Change your Facebook cover, change any of your social media banners to encourage people to be aware of this amazing campaign against cyberbullying. So as a show of solidarity, QueerTech will be doing this tonight for the rest of the month, and we encourage all other QueerTechers to do so as well. All right, well, I guess this is the time to really get into it. I want to read you 3 very quick statistics, okay? 57% of LGBTQ plus Canadians aren't fully out in the workplace. 57%. 33% of Canadians don't feel that their workplace is safe or inclusive for LGBTQ individuals. For transgender employees specifically, this figure is 45%. 35% of LGBTQ plus employees feel compelled to lie every day about their personal lives at work. Think of the huge impact this has, not just on the individuals, but as well on their potential to be incredible employees for their employers. So let's keep these stats in mind as we delve into the panel and hear the experiences of our panelists. And without further ado, I'd like them to introduce themselves and tell us why they're on this panel tonight sharing with us. So,
Vous m'entendez?
Everyone can hear?
Donc, mon nom, c'est Roxane Nadeau. Je vais me présenter. En ce moment, je suis travailleuse autonome, fait que j'ai le plaisir de... En tout cas, pour moi, c'est un plaisir de ne pas avoir de patron ni d'employeur. Mais je suis ici ce soir parce que j'ai déjà été en recherche d'emploi salarié. J'ai déjà été employée. Le point de tension le plus fort, c'est une expérience de discrimination à l'emploi que j'ai vécue un peu après être arrivée à Montréal. J'ai une Rimouski, j'étais emménagée pour mes études universitaires. Sinon, pour parler de moi en général, je suis réviseuse et rédactrice à la Pige, je suis pigiste aussi, je suis poète. J'ai publié un recueil de poésie qui s'appelle Les garçons au vent aux éditions de la Tournure. J'ai cofondé La Réclame, une ancienne association LGBT qui avait à l'UQAM. On a réussi à mettre des méthodes pour changer le nom et la mention de genre pour les étudiants et étudiantes trans et aussi les étudiants et étudiantes en général, comme ceux étrangers qui en ont beaucoup besoin parfois. J'ai aussi transitionné pendant la recherche d'emploi, puis ça a fait des entrevues d'embauche qui étaient difficiles. Mon expérience de discrimination, c'était avant ma transition, alors que je m'identifiais peut-être comme gay, peut-être comme non-binaire, vu que je venais de Rimouski, puis qu'à l'époque, les mots n'étaient pas aussi popularisés, c'est un peu une zone floue. Mais c'est un peu ça, ce que je veux avancer avec mon témoignage, c'est que la discrimination à l'embauche, c'est une zone floue. C'est pour ça que c'est aussi dur de passer par-dessus, de comprendre ce qui s'est passé, de porter plainte, parce que c'est plein d'ambiguïtés différentes. C'est jamais simple, la discrimination. Donc, je vais laisser les autres se présenter.
Merci, Roxane.
Bonjour, vous m'entendez bien? Oui. Marie-Isabelle Gendron. Je suis accompagné, vraiment, j'ai l'honneur d'être accompagné par mon patron aujourd'hui, Nicolas Hall de ma compagnie. Je travaille chez Pratt & Whitney Canada. C'est le fabricant de moteurs d'avion, d'hélicoptères. On est présent dans environ 200 pays. Fait qu'aujourd'hui, moi, je suis une spécialiste technique. Je réponds soit au téléphone, courriel, à des problèmes moteurs. L'avion est cloué au sol. On est ici pour les dépanner. Fait que c'est vraiment une spécialité très, très technique. J'ai eu l'honneur de pouvoir faire ma transition au travail, de garder le même emploi que j'avais avant, que j'ai aujourd'hui. Nicolas, lui, il m'a connu beaucoup, beaucoup avant, pendant et après. Fait qu'il peut témoigner pour voir si mon cerveau s'est été affecté ou pas. Je fais aussi partie de la Fondation Emergence, conseil d'administration avec Laurent. J'ai le grand honneur de travailler avec eux autres. Et puis, I could speak English. Is there anyone who do not understand French here? Okay,
Come on, don't be shy.
So don't be shy to ask any questions. I could speak English anytime too. No problem for me. Y a-t-il des gens qui ne comprennent pas l'anglais? Tout le monde comprend l'anglais. OK, c'est bon. I also want to know who I'm talking about. You know, am I talking to all people in QueerTech? Who's part of QueerTech here? Thank you. Everybody else, why did you come here? Did you come here because you were attracted by the QueerTech, or just, I want to know why you came here?
Yeah, who are you all?
Yeah.
Woo!
And I'm opening a location. Part of our hiring practices is to incorporate diversity and to learn about how we can do that in an anti-oppressive way, in an inclusive way, in a way that's fair and honors everybody involved. That's why we're here tonight, just to learn more about how we can be better.
That is amazing. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Because whenever we talk to people, we need to know who we're talking to. So thank you very much. So it's going to be a different speech. If it was all queer people, it's different. So thank you.
Bonjour, je me présente Nicolas Houle, donc le gestionnaire de Marie-Isabelle, et je peux confirmer que son cerveau n'a pas changé. And I can also confirm that it can be a positive experience, so that's why we want to share our experience tonight for you guys, to see also a positive experience in a workplace environment as such a big multinational company like Pratt & Whitney Canada. So that's why we're there tonight, to share our experience.
Hi there, I'm Shannon. Oh, sure. And I'm here tonight because, could you guys hear me without this? I'm here tonight because, I was asked to, and I'm trans, and I've worked at a couple of companies where some whack stuff happened. And I wanted to maybe talk to you guys and how maybe you would deal with that situation. I don't know if we're going to jump into that right now, but...
Not right now.
Okay, well, soon.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned, guys.
But thank you everybody for their introduction. We're all about giving everyone a voice. We want to share stories. So I have a bunch of questions and that now feel prepared for the panel. But what's most important to me is to highlight their personal stories. So this is how this is going to happen. The first part of the panel which is going to take about 10-15 minutes. We're going to talk about the recruitment process. So before you're hired, what are some of the obstacles that LGBTQ plus people, specifically gender non-binary, and also trans individuals face during that process? Like, we all want to get hired, but how can you navigate that process? Anyways, I'll let them talk about this. But the second part of the panel is you're hired. You're already an employee. What happens when you're in an environment that is not inclusive, that is not welcoming, that you don't feel like you can be your authentic self? How do you navigate that environment? And we have an amazing success story, and the great experience of Marie-Isabelle and having Nicolas' perspective, I think, will shed light on what can be done by companies to improve the environment. And not just that, but to go the extra mile and aid in the transition of individuals and have them flourish by being themselves. Now, we're not experts in any of this. I want to say that right away. This is a platform for them to share their experiences and stories. I personally think that because they lived it, they do live it, it makes them an expert in a way. But we are not experts in the field, so I just want to put that out there for everybody, okay? So let's dive right into it. Roxane, est-ce que aimerais-tu nous faire partir d'une histoire où vous êtes senti mal à l'aise ou victime de discrimination pendant le processus de recrutement ou au travail?
Ouais, je pense que je vais parler tout de suite de l'événement qui m'a le plus marqué. Donc, à l'époque, je venais d'emménager à Montréal pour mon bac en études littéraires. J'étais un petit peu désespérée de trouver un emploi. J'essayais de mettre des CV dans les cafés autour de chez moi, mais je me rends compte qu'autour des résidences de l'UQAM, c'est peut-être pas le mode le plus efficace. Heureusement, il y avait un de mes amis d'Internet qui vivait à Montréal, puis que le micro marche. OK, parce qu'on n'entend pas aussi. C'est bon. Fait que j'avais un ami d'Internet qui vivait à Montréal, qui travaillait à Montréal, dans un café dans le Vieux-Montréal. Puis il me dit, je pourrais te donner comme recommandation, on est en train de chercher un nouvel employé. À cette époque-là, comme j'ai précisé un peu plus tôt, j'avais pas transitionné, même que j'avais pas découvert que j'étais une femme. Je m'identifiais comme gay, plutôt comme FIF, qui était un terme que à Rimouski, c'était un peu l'équivalent de queer ou fag, qui était un peu une tentative de récupération. C'était un peu avant la popularisation de non-binaires, puis des mouvements queer en général, fait que c'était une version peut-être comme expérimentale ou embryonnaire. Mais bon, dans tous les cas, j'avais une apparence physique qui était peut-être un peu ambiguë, mais pas foncièrement. Fait que souvent, je passais pour gay, mais je passais pas pour femme, puis on me considérait comme un homme. Donc, c'est ça. Mon ami me conseillait d'aller déposer mon CV au café où il travaillait. C'est ce que j'ai fait. J'avais un bon avantage, fait que j'ai été appelée pour entrevue parce que j'avais travaillé auparavant dans un café. J'avais travaillé de façon bilingue au gouvernement du Canada, dans le coin de Matane, près de Rimouski. Fait que dans le fond, j'avais à peu près tout ce qu'il fallait. En entrevue, je suis arrivée sur place, puis les locaux, ça se passait comme au sous-sol du café. Il y avait juste l'intervieweur puis moi. Au début, ça se passait assez bien parce qu'il testait le terrain, voir comment marchait mon anglais, comment marchaient mes capacités de service à la clientèle, mon intérêt, mes horaires avec l'école, tout allait bien. Mais à l'époque, j'avais fait, je ne sais pas si c'est une erreur, mais maintenant, je ne serais pas aussi audacieuse, là, d'avoir inclus mon bénévolat comme organisatrice LGBT à Rimouski. J'avais fait ça s'appelait les vendredis 20 vinyles, que c'était des vendredis à Rimouski, ou que c'était pour les personnes LGBT, puis c'était le seul événement du genre de Gaspésie à Montréal, de Gaspésie à Rivière-du-Loup. Fait que j'étais assez fière, puis aussi, ça montrait un peu mes capacités d'autonomie. C'était vraiment d'un côté emploi que j'avais montré ça dans mon CV, même que j'ai pas mis nos événements les plus activistes puis les plus choquants. J'avais juste mis les choses un peu plus proprettes, appropriées pour le travail. Mais quand l'intervieweur est arrivé dans cette partie-là de mon CV puis de la discussion, il me dit « Oh, ça devait pas être facile d'être gay à Rimouski. » Là, j'étais un peu surprise parce que j'avais pas dit que j'étais gay, j'avais dit que j'avais fait du travail LGBT, mais je m'étais pas définie moi-même, fait que je trouvais ça un peu présomptueux de me coller une étiquette comme ça. Mais bon, j'étais en mode entrevue, je voulais vraiment l'emploi, je pensais que j'avais des bonnes chances vu que j'avais une recommandation puis des compétences, fait que j'ai décidé de run with it, fait que j'ai dit... j'ai essayé de tourner ça de façon plus professionnelle en disant « Ah oui, ça m'a vraiment aidé à comme louer un local, commander des inventaires, faire des contacts avec les personnes. On avait une activité sociale différente à chaque semaine. » Puis il dit « Non, je veux dire, ça n'a pas dû être facile à guerre Rimouski, à l'école, l'intimidation, tout ça. » Là, c'était comme un pas de plus dans le côté un peu plus intime. J'étais vraiment mal à l'aise. J'ai répondu quand même. J'ai dit, en essayant de garder ça aussi professionnel que je pouvais, même si la question me peinturait un peu dans un coin. Fait que j'ai dit, c'est un peu moins pire qu'on pourrait penser du point de vue de Montréal. T'sais, j'ai eu des amis quand même, des projets quand même. Puis il y en a qui se sont sûrement fait écœurer. Moi, ça n'a pas vraiment été le cas. Puis là, je me sentais un peu comme mal à l'aise. Puis après ça, c'était à l'époque de la grève étudiante en 2012 quand j'ai eu cette entrevue d'emploi-là. L'intervieweur m'a dit « Pour moi, l'homosexualité, c'est comme un carré rouge. » Puis un carré rouge, c'est le symbole de la lutte étudiante. Quand tu es au travail, il faut que tu enlèves ton carré rouge. Là, j'étais un peu choquée, mais peut-être que ça me sert, peut-être que ça me sert pas, vu que je suis très professionnelle, puis bonne pour m'exprimer. J'étais « mais je suis très professionnelle à mon travail, vous pouvez demander des références de mes autres employeurs. » Puis là, la discussion s'en allait sur une pente glissante, puis j'essaie de rembobiner un peu, puis là, l'entrevue a fini. J'étais un peu secouée. On a remonté en haut dans la partie café où il y avait les autres employés, les autres clients. Puis là, j'étais comme « Si vous avez besoin de références, n'hésitez pas, non. » Puis là, il me dit « Oui, c'est correct. Puis je vais te rappeler lundi pour te donner des nouvelles. » Fait que j'arrive chez moi. J'essaie de déterminer dans ma tête si c'était... dans le fond, je n'avais pas compris à 100% ce qui s'était passé. Là. Il y avait une partie de l'entrevue où j'avais l'impression que c'était une personne authentiquement curieuse qui voulait juste comme en savoir plus sur quelque chose qu'il ne connaît pas beaucoup. Mais vers la fin, je trouvais ça vraiment stéréotypé de penser que l'homosexualité, on peut s'enlever ça comme un carré rouge. Là. Puis en plus, c'était un peu... à l'époque, je me posais des questions sur mon identité de genre. Fait que je me disais, tu sais, l'homosexualité dont il parle, c'est plutôt avoir une expression de genre qui est plus efféminée ou avoir comme des positions politiques qui s'expriment. Là. Je me souviens même que dans l'entrevue, tu sais, je disais, si un employé est cute, si un client est cute, je vais pas commencer à flirter avec lui. Là. En tout cas, j'étais assez déstabilisée par ce qui s'était passé. J'ai fini par en reparler à mon ami qui avait donné ma recommandation. Il n'a pas vraiment bien reçu mes préoccupations. J'étais comme un peu inquiète. J'ai dit, tu sais, est-ce qu'il y a un problème avec les gays ou avec les personnes efféminées ou quoi que ce soit? Là, il a dit sûrement pas parce qu'il est homosexuel lui-même. Puis là, j'ai pas avancé la discussion plus que ça avec mon ami, qui est un ami d'Internet, fait que c'était pas comme c'était un ami intime. Là. C'était juste... Je me sentais un peu plus seule. Finalement, je n'ai pas été rappelée le lundi. J'ai eu de la misère à trouver un emploi pendant un bon bout de temps. Puis j'ai pris la décision de porter plainte aux normes du travail. Aux normes du travail, ils m'ont dit que vu que je n'avais pas été employée, il fallait plutôt que j'aille au droit de la personne. Puis là, je vais droit de la personne? Est-ce que je suis le genre de personne qui a besoin de recourir au droit de la personne? Est-ce que c'est vraiment moi? C'était un peu irréel. J'ai appelé quand même au droit de la personne. Je dois d'ailleurs souligner que j'ai tombé sur des employés qui étaient très compatissants, très réactifs. Ils m'ont bien dirigée pour voir un peu ce que j'avais à faire. J'avais un formulaire à remplir pour décrire un peu l'événement, le nom de l'employeur en question, qui j'étais moi-même. Mais ce qui me bloquait dans le formulaire, c'est dans la case « Qu'est-ce que je réclame en retour ». Puis là, j'étais comme, ça vaut combien de se faire discriminer à l'embauche? Là, je me suis dit, à cette époque-là, ça avait pris quand même du temps avant que j'embarque dans les démarches puis que les démarches débloquent. Là. Fait que quand j'avais le formulaire, j'avais été employée ailleurs dans un centre d'appel, un emploi qui était moins bien payé, qui était assez rough. Là. Fait que je me disais, je pourrais comparer la différence entre mon salaire actuel et le salaire que j'aurais eu dans le café, puis demander une différence. Je pourrais demander des excuses. Mais finalement, je dirais que j'étais tellement choquée, puis je voyais tellement pas de possibilité de réconfort de continuer les démarches que j'ai juste abandonné. Fait que ça a été mon expérience de discrimination à l'embauche. Après le centre d'appel, j'ai été employée à la presse. Après la presse, quand il y a eu des restructurations, j'ai été employée au devoir. Là, je suis rendue travailleuse autonome, puis en général, ça s'est assez bien passé, là, mais cet événement-là m'a un peu freinée. Si j'ai du temps plus tard, je parlerai peut-être de les périodes d'embauche quand j'ai transitionné. C'est ça.
Absolutely, and thank you so much,
Merci.
Roxanne, for sharing this story. As we can see, the discrimination at that level during the hiring process can be extremely damaging to an individual that is seeking to earn a living. So it's very important to consider the process when you're in a position of making that change happen. I'd like to complement Roxanne's story by Shane. Can you share with us briefly a story where you felt uncomfortable or discriminated against during the recruitment process or at work? Briefly, though.
Okay. I'll go with this one. So not too long ago, I applied to work at a company that my friend worked at, and am I speaking loud enough? Louder? That's good. Sorry, guys. And so I sent my CV, and the next day I got a phone call from the boss, and we had a great conversation. You know, we talked for over an hour, and we were like really great friends. It felt like he was going to invite me to his country house. And then 2 days later, I go in for the interview, and he gets to meet me in person, and I can see on his face that I was not what he expected. And when I came in, he was like, "Oh, I thought you were a girl." And I said, "Oh, no, not quite." And he was like, "Oh, so you're cross-gendered? So are you like a girl that's trying to be like a guy, or are you a guy that's, pretending to be a girl, or like some terrible language like that?" And it was like my brains were like, on the wall. I was like, "What did you say?" I was like, "What?" And I didn't really know where to go from there. Like, am I going to explain this whole thing to this person? Like, I knew I already didn't get the job, because I can kind of tell that he was weirded out with even that word. And I don't think maybe he never met anybody like me before. And anyway, I left the interview in a very awkward way, and I didn't get the job, even though it sounded like I would because of the phone call we had earlier. So that was one case.
Thank you so much for sharing that. We want to raise awareness about these issues with the hiring process. And these two stories are but one in thousands that trans and gender non-binary folks across Canada and across the world face on a daily basis. Imagine not just the psychological and human impact, but also the economic impact that this is having in our society. So let's consider that. When we think about these issues and hear these stories, we want to fix the problem, right? And this is why we're having these conversations. So there's a lot of education that needs to happen. What we would like ideally out of this part of the panel is for those hiring managers or recruiters or entrepreneurs, owners, to walk away with 3 recommendations on how we can affect change. And I think that's why many of you came to join us tonight. So I'll turn it back to them, Shannon and Roxanne. What would you recommend companies do from your personal point of view to improve the hiring process, and then I'd like to open to a brief Q&A to explore what ideas there are in the audience. So, Roxanne.
Oh, there you go, please.
Oh, she's
Roxanne has
Oh. Okay.
Tu peux peut-être commencer.
Or Shan, yeah.
Yeah, sure, I could start. Something that they can do, yeah. Well, maybe it could be mandated that during the interview process, it could be brought up. Like, it doesn't have to be a dirty thing to just ask. Like, when I got a job last year at an editing company, and I didn't mention anything at the interview, and then when the HR rep called me to offer me the job, I told her then, and then I thought it was really polite what she did. She said, would you prefer if I told the department, or would you like to do it yourself when you get here? So I said, in my case, I prefer if you just tell everybody before I get there, so I don't have to come out to every single new person I meet. So when I started, it was actually really great because everybody already knew. So I think that's a good way to go.
De mon côté, de mon côté, je parlais. Quand je travaillais au devoir, j'avais mon nouveau patron, c'était un ancien collègue de la presse. Fait que c'était après ma transition. Fait que naturellement, lui, il se rendait compte qu'il y avait something going on. Mais c'était après ma transition aussi. Fait que mes futurs collègues, en étant employés là-bas, ne l'auraient pas nécessairement su. L'instruction que j'ai donnée, c'était de ne pas le dire puis de ne pas le mentionner. De ne pas partager mon ancien prénom ou quoi que ce soit. C'était nécessaire que j'en parle du fait que j'étais trans avec mon employeur parce que fallait à un moment donné raccorder un peu mes références passées puis ces dossiers-là. Mais il a respecté mon instruction. J'ai travaillé 2 ans au devoir sans jamais que le fait que j'étais trans soit apporté. Puis j'avais besoin de ça à ce moment-là. J'avais besoin de retourner dans le placard un petit peu puis de vivre cette expérience-là sans être out and proud.
Thank you very much. So, different perspectives on how we can improve the hiring process. Now, as I mentioned, I'd like to open up the floor. We have about, let's call it 10 minutes, and I want to hear what are some ideas, maybe you've had your own experiences that you'd like to share with us. This is a conversation, right? So if anyone has anything to offer in terms of how we can improve the hiring process or any questions for our panelists, I'd like to welcome you and give you the floor. We can do this.
It's actually a question. Let's say you come into a workplace, day 1, week 1. What can make you say, wow, this place gets it right? Like, how would that look in the everyday of the new workplace?
Can I say something? Yeah?
Of course.
You know, there is an association, right? ATQ, Aide aux Trans du Québec. And il y avait des gens qui font là-bas. So I can switch English or French, right?
Anglais.
English is everybody, yeah. Fondation Emergence a sorti une belle brochure. On est en rupture de stock. There's no more stock on that. But there is a nice brochure. It's only French. For now, right, Laurent?
For now.
For now. This one here gives a lot of tricks to a company how to integrate a trans person at work. There are lots of good tools with this brochure. You can have it free of charge on the internet, right? It's a PDF copy. So some of the people at ETQ Trans people, they send their curriculum and they send this up front. That's what they decided to do. They said it's better because they know up front who you're talking to. I believe it's nice. That's my opinion. Doesn't mean that's a trick. There is a nice page there. Education is a trick, is number 1. You know, when I go to places that explain to people, there is a nice page. We don't have a PDF up front there. You know, a lot of people don't understand just the 4 different things, you know. And that explaining to new people that don't know what this is all about helps. You know, the employers. You know, the black and white. I'm born with this sex for men or for women, but that's just my genital, right? The way I'm going to express myself, you know. I could define myself as a man or a woman, express myself a bit different, you know, like the norm. That's something else. sexual orientation has nothing to do with what I was born down there, right? So, and also my identity. No, the gender identity is something else. And we're just a mix-up of all this somewhere. There's no black and white. And when you explain that to people, it just opens up some lights, you know. And we're all diverse, like 7 billion people diversity. That's what we all are. And I believe when we go up front, for me, that's the best way to go. Because if you hide something, you'll be frustrated. That's my opinion. But education is a key.
Dans notre situation à nous, tu sais, l'inconfort résidait souvent par l'inconnu. Souvent, les gens devant l'inconnu ressentent un certain inconfort. Donc, juste le volet communication, de témoigner les différentes possibilités, a été un clé de succès pour nous au niveau du volet communication. Donc, ça réside souvent dans juste le fait les gens, ne sachant pas, vont être campés sur des positions, puis vont avoir une plus grande ouverture d'esprit juste en abordant le sujet.
Merci Nicolas, je veux maintenant...
Oui, je voulais répondre à la question de Monsieur David. OK. Quelque chose qui me ferait dire « wow » chez un nouvel employeur, ça serait des bonnes assurances. Support psychologique, support santé, conseil juridique. J'ai l'impression que quand je vivais ma transition de genre, c'est comme si j'enlevais 5 $ sur chaque heure que je travaillais. C'était très coûteux, ça me prenait du temps sur mon horaire. Puis si on a des bonnes assurances pour tous les employés, ça nous permet de décider si on veut vivre ça out ou vivre ça in, mais le vivre quand même à notre façon.
And there will be more on this to come when we get to the second part of the panel. So stay tuned, David. Are there any other questions before we move on? Comments? Yes, I love hands. Hi.
Hi. So
would you like the mic or?
I think I'm fine. So my experience is that I think people always during the hiring process they like to get to know you as a person. But I think during the hiring process you have to avoid how personal you want to get. For example, why was having my interview, my employer always asked me, so you are from China, why do you come to Canada? Okay, I don't want to tell you because I'm gay, that's why I come here, but so what do I have to say? I always have to find an excuse. Okay, because I come here because I like to study, because I want to be, some person, but I don't want people always ask me too personal during the interview, because you don't know how you can really respond, because you don't know the people who is asking this question, is he open or is she open to listen to your personal experience? So I think for the people who is hiring, they have to be cautious how personal the question you want to ask, because I know that people want to know you as a person, but how personal you want to go. And the second thing that I actually heard from another workshop, I don't know how it can be applied, is that a lot of companies, in Canada it's pretty good that they don't ask you photos, because in China, in France, they even ask you photos. So I'm questioning, so why do you need to know my face? Like, what do you make me feel? Like, even you see my face, does that make me feel more competitive, or does it make me feel like less attractive? Especially, if I'm an ugly person, so are you going to not hire me? Or if I'm a handsome or beautiful person, so you are immediately attracted to call me for having interview. And another thing that I find is that, so we always have to put a name, right? I think it's very commonly known that when you put a name, especially in Canada, where it's like a multicultural society, people always notice, this name is a Chinese name, that name is an Arab name. So people already have an idea, because he's Arab, because he's Chinese, so he must be like that. So people probably started to questioning, maybe I shouldn't hire this person, because I know this type of people are not, good, or not, or maybe is not suited. And a lot of times, I was really surprised that people always ask me, how come you can speak English? Like, where did you learn your English? Did you learn your English when you came to Canada, or you learned English like, I'm like, So first, I think that question you have to reflect before you ask. So I think a lot of this practice should be should be put in, like when people hiring, they should think about these questions, right?
Thank you so much. Wow, that was so insightful. What is your name again, please?
Oh, me.
Ming, thank you so much for that. So listen up, recruiters and hiring managers. Consider the questions that you're asking. How personal do you want to get? Consider who you're interviewing, and please try not to bring your cultural bias to any of it, or any bias for that matter. Hire the person for their competencies, for their experience, not for their name or how they look, or how they choose to express themselves. Any other questions or comments? Yeah, so we've got, I'm gonna take 3 and then we're gonna move on to the second part of the panel, and I'll start with you next. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Hi, can everyone hear me? So I'm also a hiring manager, and one of the struggle I have is I want to actually give my pronoun when I'm introducing myself and make it as a standard. And I couldn't do that at my current company, partly for legal reasons. So I would like to have your opinion if it was actually a bad idea or not.
I think it's a great idea. Because if everybody did that all the time, then we wouldn't have this problem.
Shannon, could we rephrase the question for everyone, please?
Okay. What they said was during your hiring process, you would start with your pronoun.
Yeah, I would actually say, hey, my name is Jenny. I'm she, they, or another noun, and start the conversation and make it a natural habit for any interviewer to actually give their own pronoun because you cannot guess.
I think that's a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Why
it's
not do that everyone?
I think it's important, like, to tell your pronouns, but don't necessarily ask the other person's pronoun. Because as a trans woman, we don't necessarily play by the same rules as non-binary people. Like, to us, we want our pronouns to be reflected by clothes and appearance, and it can be a really anxious experience to be asked pronouns when you're not expecting this. You might ask, like, is there any confusion by the way I look? So, yeah.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
In my defense, I was trying to that the interviewee would respect me.
Yeah, but that's a nice way to go, and like, if it offers a place for someone to tell their pronouns, they will do so more easily. So I think it's really good.
Thanks.
I believe there was thank you, and did we answer your question or address it? So there's the gentleman here.
Yeah, I guess actually sort of along the same lines. What can I do in a job posting? What can I do in my initial introduction that can make you feel most welcome and not like, oh my God, I would not want to work there. It's not a safe space for me. How can I best create a safe space in a job posting or in my introduction? That's sort of a vague question, but that's sort of what I'm wondering.
Thank you. I'll try to reformulate that, and if I'm totally off, please let me know. You're a recruiter.
No, I'm trying to be.
Okay, so from that point of view, how do you put out a job posting or advertise a job in a way that is inclusive to everyone?
Yeah, how do I avoid language that would make you feel like that workspace is unsafe?
Yeah. So how do you reflect that the company that you represent, that you're hiring for, is an inclusive and welcoming environment for everybody?
Yeah.
How do you translate that into the job posting? Peut-être, Nicolas, si tu peux adresser la question. C'est du point de vue de...
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Pratt Whitney Canada, the company I work for, have a big text about the inclusion at the company. So I can't remember what they're saying there, but there is a text, to mention about the inclusion of diversity at large.
And there's a policy associated to it. So not just at Pratt Canada, but Pratt Canada belongs to United Technologies Corporation, so it's a general policy all out there.
Okay.
So they
let's-
have a
yeah.
very
So
large
it's an official
diversity,
statement.
inclusion, open. You know, we have different culture, different religion, whatever, sexual orientation, gender. It's black and white. I believe that's where that's it. You know,
Yeah,
if
just
it's
put it
all
in.
there.
Yeah, that's good. Okay.
And in fact, for us, when we go out there during interviews, we have different pillars, and one of them is inclusion. And we say that out loud, that for us, it's one of our key values.
Okay, great. That's a
And
great idea.
I think that if in the job posting or like if you contact a person afterward, if you mention things like, is there a gender neutral bathroom on spot, or like, I think it's a good signal that you're actually doing the work to be inclusive instead of just putting a text without really thinking about the issues that trans people actually face.
Of course. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm going to move on to the second part of the panel, conscious of time. But Mina, I know you had a question, so I will actually. I will. Can we have that at the very end?
Yeah,
Okay, great.
yeah.
And this is a good segue. Recruiting diversity is great. We all know that creating an inclusive environment where everyone feels like they belong is much harder. So let's dive right into that. And a lot of us from QueerTech are familiar with Marie's story. So I just want to give her the floor to tell us, to put everyone on the same page and tell us her amazing story very briefly. And then we'll talk to Nicolas about his reaction and what that process was like. And then we can talk about, once you're hired, what's this environment like? How do we improve that environment so that it's actually inclusive, welcoming, and a place where everyone can thrive? So, Marie.
Yeah, I believe there are a lot of people that didn't hear my story here, right? How many people did not hear my story, right? Lots of people.
Lots of people.
Myself, of course, I've been living as a man for a good part of my life, you know. So I've done my liberty 55, as we say. So I didn't say my age, of course, you know. So yes, I did my transition in 2014, which is like yesterday. 7 October 2014, it's a rebirth. That's the way I walked in a company as Marie Jeanron. Marie-Isabelle today, but I couldn't do it because the company offered me, before my name was even changed, because in 2013 it was a different rules. You know, you had to go through hormone therapy just to change the name from masculine to feminine. You had to go through surgery completely just to change from masculine to feminine. No choice. Imagine that. Not everyone wants to do that. It was horrible until 2015. But you know, I couldn't do it anymore. You know, of course, I had to change, and I couldn't wait all that time, and not sure if I wanted to do all this at that time. So I've been living a bit like what we call today non-binary. I used to say I was more like a androgyne. How do you say in English? Androgyne, yes. So I used that word at that time. So I was really like looking more like a man, and dressing with, you know, a skirt. It was normal for me. Always been, since I was a kid, you know. But I was hiding a lot. And then I've been married with a woman. I've got 2 children. So I was hetero from a man with a woman. I got divorced and I fell in love with a man, you know. So I've been in love with a man. Then, in fact, in 2014, the man wanted a man. So when I became too much of a woman, it just didn't fit, you know. So yes, we're good friends today on both of them. But then, the man wants a woman, so it's different. So the man likes a man. So it's been a lot of changes in my life for this thing. So it's a lot of work, you know. All the trans people can talk about it, and of course, you know, one of the big things is the job, right? If you lose your job, well, from a man to become A female, it's expensive. It's very expensive. Of course, you laser on the whole body, that's a starting point. And the breast is not free. They don't pay for that. Unless you have a good boyfriend, So a job becomes very important to survive, And it was for me, it was difficult challenge, How would I do that at work? It wasn't that easy, of course, at the beginning, even for me. Just dressing with the problem with society is you see a man born like a man and decide to put a skirt. Well, look at the same body almost, and it's okay. No. So what's wrong about it? So there's a big, big problem again today, and I'm not even too sure, and friend with me, if Nicolas, let's say, you like it and you come with a skirt. Let's say you like it. I'm not too sure how they would go with this when you're just kind of in between. But it's part of society, So what happened in 2014, I was ready to move, right? So it's been a lot of work, and I could talk for hours. And the company was good enough, so I had to educate them a bit. It took some time. My transition started gradually, took a year before I said that I have to go forward, and I have to move to be Marie, full feminine. So they even changed my name in the whole network. But they kept my first letter, M. So my old name started with an M. So officially, they could put that. You cannot put my Mary because officially, legally, it did not exist at that time. So they even did that. So 7th of October, of course, we had a lot of discussion with the supervision. So you have to go with the supervision, the manager, not just one at a time. You need the allies, but you have to go to supervisions to help to do the transition. So the management, the higher management, everybody was involved. I had human resource and a therapist, right, in the company. So it was all prepared. It's a big transition. It's a lot of work. And they did that in 2014. I went away for a month. I came back with 2 pounds extra, So I went for a vacation, and I said, when I came back, they made a meeting with my colleagues, 20 people, and I said, well, I just went for a nice trip to Silicon Valley. But if you remember Nicolas, it was silent in the room. So that was my first day as Marie-Isabelle, and I started in 2014. And they even had, talking about bathrooms, they didn't have neutral room. But for them, for the other woman to be comfortable, they modified a woman's bathroom and made just a neutral one. And they started from all there, 2014, but I had the support from the company saying, well, you still have the same brain, you're still competent, we're going to help you.
Wow. Thank you so much. So we start hearing in her story actions that the company took to not just support her transition while she worked, while she kept her employment, but also to make the environment inclusive and welcoming. And this question is for Nicolas. Nicolas, autant que manager chez Pratt & Whitney, quelle était ta réaction au début? Quelle était ta réaction, and what were some of the actions that the management team and the higher-ups at Pratt & Whitney took to make this possible for Marie?
En fait, à l'époque, j'étais un collègue de Marie-Isabelle, donc j'ai vu le côté collègue et ensuite gestionnaire auprès de Marie-Isabelle. Donc Marie-Isabelle, un peu l'approche qu'elle a eue, c'est d'aller voir certaines personnes avec lesquelles elle s'entendait bien, pour en parler avant d'en parler plus ouvertement avec d'autres personnes au sein de l'organisation. On parle souvent d'avoir du support, so to have someone that you can trust, you can share your experience, where you're going through. I guess if she came to see me, probably we had a good relationship that you trust my judgment. So she was explaining her transition, where she wanted to go. And one aspect that I like that the company did, it's to offer, yes, Marie was well accompanied, but also to offer support. So like Marie was saying, we had a meeting with everyone in the department the day that she announced that she was going through the official transition. And they also offered support to the other employees, because for some people back then, I know it's not so many years ago, but it was not as well known as today. So for some people, when you're in front of something you're not aware, not familiar to, then it creates an uncomfort zone. So to offer also support for some employees that could also, if they wanted to share their point of view, that they could also meet a therapist. So that's something that was also offered to them. For the people that were less comfortable at the time, we have the luxury to work on shift patterns, so we could accommodate the schedule back then. And for some people, it takes a bit longer to get used to it, to adapt. At some point at the beginning, some people were still hesitating and you're just naming your name properly. I must say that Marie, t'étais une bonne joueuse, parce qu'à chaque fois, dans le fond, elle ne prenait pas personnel. Elle se disait, bon, ces personnes-là m'ont connu comme une autre personne avant. Donc, c'est là la transition du fait que, bon, on a connu une personne pendant X nombre d'années, ça fait longtemps, il y a des habitudes. Pour certaines personnes, ça ne change pas du jour au lendemain. Oui, ça prend une période de transition, mais là, maintenant, 5 ans plus tard, le temps fait son œuvre, les personnes s'habituent, puis maintenant, c'est plus du tout un enjeu. Même les personnes pour lesquelles il était inconfortable, au fil du temps, c'est devenu, dans le fond, un terrain connu. Donc, la clé, je pense, c'était vraiment justement le volet éducation, communication, d'en parler, et non pas de traiter comme un sujet tabou, parce que devant l'inconnu, c'est là que les gens restent et demeurent inconfortables. C'est vraiment la clé, en tout cas dans notre cas, qui fait en sorte que c'est un volet qui était positif. Puis dans le fond, pour nous, je dois dire que ça a été une expérience qui était vraiment positive, dans le sens que Marie avant et Marie après, la Marie avant était, si je peux me permettre, pas heureuse. Donc, des fois, ça se transférait dans le travail. Le volet, Laurent parlait tantôt, la productivité, un emploi. Surtout, nous, on est dans le service à la clientèle. Donc, si personnellement, tu n'es pas heureux, c'est difficile d'être ouvert pour aider autrui dans le support quelconque qu'il soit. Nous, on est dans le domaine technique des moteurs d'avion, mais le concept reste de même, peu importe le travail dans le service à la clientèle. Donc, la Marie post-transition, qui est épanouie, qui est heureuse, qui a enlevé une tonne de poids sur ses épaules, était juste beaucoup plus heureuse, puis ça s'en est juste été bénéfique au volet productivité, l'ambiance de travail, de rentrer avec le sourire. Ça peut être bénéfique et une belle expérience. C'est ce qu'on veut témoigner. Puis le fait d'être là maintenant comme gestionnaire, juste par ma présence, je veux montrer que même dans des grandes entreprises, c'est possible. Que ce soit une petite, même des grandes entreprises, des fois, on se dit, bon, la bureaucratie, c'est plus difficile de changer un gros paquebot de direction, mais c'est possible avec des petits gestes, mais c'est au quotidien.
Thank you.
Une chose que je peux rajouter aussi, c'est que dans leur préparation, ce qu'ils ont fait le management, c'est que je suis dans une grosse entreprise, faire affaire avec bien des gens, puis c'est sûr, dans mon cas, mais il y avait un changement drastique, là, de masculin au féminin. Ça, il y avait aussi à aviser l'entourage, les autres départements avec qui je fais affaire. On avait composé une lettre qui a été distribuée au patron de compagnie avec qui je faisais affaire, qui devait lire la lettre aux employés. On fait affaire avec 100 représentants au travers le monde. Fait que ces représentants-là qui m'ont connu, parce que moi j'ai fait de l'enseignement, donc ils m'ont connu personnellement, ils ont su de leur patron une lettre qui informait qu'est-ce qui se passait. Quand ils m'appelaient au téléphone, mais Ça a toujours été fantastique. Fait que j'ai
And that
été
was
très bien
actually
reçu.
a really good thing. So it was not a surprise because for us, yes, we're the close community that we daily work with Marie, but we interact with many people all out there. So just the customer support by itself, it's we're talking more than just the field service rep. There are more than 100 all across the globe, but we also have different service providers in different organizations. So just to make sure that they know, so there's no one in comfort say, oh, what happened? I did not know, I was not aware, and then it creates a special moment that you don't want the person, that it takes a lot of energy just to go through that transition. So on top of it, if you have to deal with each person that has a reaction because they did not know, so I think just to also the communication aspect is critical.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Les questions, je sais pas.
Oui, bien sûr.
Je suis juste curieux, est-ce que tu as eu l'occasion de travailler avec l'administration pour faire la lettre? Est-ce qu'ils t'ont engagé directement dans le processus de rédaction, trouver les bonnes formules?
Oui, on a travaillé ensemble pour faire la lettre avec, j'avais été la ressource humaine, une thérapeute, pour, on a fait ça ensemble.
Merci beaucoup. I'd like to now it's a question for the full panel, and this is in a way for us to wrap up and maybe open it up to Q&A. What are some concrete actions that can be implemented that have a real day-to-day impact? In our conversation today, we've heard about using the right language. We've heard about facilities, so having gender-neutral facilities for everyone. We've heard about not getting too personal, being aware. So let's pull it all together. And the main takeaway from this part is, what recommendations can this panel offer from your personal experience for managers and recruiters and for people in positions to affect change? What can we do to make this better for trans and gender non-binary individuals? So we can go in order or not, as you like.
I can. We're not necessarily a very racially diverse panel tonight, but I still need to talk about intersectionality, because to me, we talk a lot about trans issues, but as a woman, I had to occupy many positions that were very vulnerable, that I could easily lose my hours, my wage was not very high, I didn't have insurance. So maybe I can talk for sexism, so maybe take that into account. And unfortunately, we don't talk much about racism tonight, but I'm sure that it's something else that you need to take into account, because for trans people, it's like time 10 sexism, time 10 racism, so it amplifies other vulnerabilities we might have.
It's very true. And in this panel tonight, it's by no means an exhaustive discussion. There are so many angles and important pieces of the conversation. So thank you so much, Roxanne, for bringing those to the table.
Yeah, well, I've discussed about many points, right? What it can be done, what has been done. There's another one. I was lucky in my large companies to have a therapist on the company that works at large, and they offered to other people, if you need help, not to me, the other people around, if you need help, we can support you. And it happened, Some people had to sit there, not to fight with me, because I'm not sick. And that helped a lot. That's another good point to support.
Excellent point. Nicolas, quelque chose à rajouter?
I already mentioned it, but one aspect for us that's important is the inclusion. So when we do for all employees, the performance evaluation, one of the key pillars is the inclusion and diversity. So I think just that aspect puts the importance on that topic. So yes, it's important to be productive, but there's also the notion of respect. So by just having that for review in terms of performance evaluation, I think is also key.
Yeah, the other thing, when they made the presentation, when I made my translation, the company, my group, they explained the whole diversity of people, including the trans,
Yeah.
like not something else, the whole diversity at large. And they said out loud, and they're saying today, we don't accept discrimination of any kind. So it's voiced from the company. It's clear.
Oh, I was just going to say that I think something else is important, not just from the higher-ups, but also the other employees, that it's really important not to negotiate with somebody about their gender, which I feel happens a lot at work. You kind of make friends and you rub shoulders, and then all of a sudden people want to ask you very personal questions. Like, would you ask your friend about their genitals? Probably not. Would you ask a friend at work who is trans about their genitals? Maybe. And I think that we should talk about that more, that like there's certain things at work you don't want to deal with. Like I also work as a lighting technician, and I remember I was hanging lights for a movie, and the sound guy comes up to me and he asks me about my surgeries, if I'm going to get them, when I'm going to get them, do I have them already? Like, I don't want to deal with that at work right now. So I think that's an important thing too for the employers to talk to the other employees about what's appropriate. Even if this person seems friendly, doesn't mean that they want to talk about this stuff at work. While they're having their coffee at 8 a.m.
Absolutely, that is a great point. Thank you. Thanks to all of us. And it doesn't end here. Now it's a Q&A, open to comments. And if you want the mic, we can make that happen. So
I can run the mic.
Sure, absolutely.
I work with students and I help students find internships, which oftentimes is their first professional experience in whatever field they're going into. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on what universities could or should be doing to help students get that first internship, and if there's also their job. And I wonder if there's maybe a way to also help ensure that companies are going to be friendly and welcoming.
But I may comment, but it's very quick. It's just a part of, there's for the hiring managers, part of the interview cycle, we have a guide of questions that are legitimate to ask and questions that are not legitimate to ask. So for some people, again, it's not that that they don't want to be impolite, but they don't know. So I think that for some people, just having such guidelines, it's helpful to make sure that you stay on a polite ground while you're having that first discussion. Because sometimes you're right, it could be just curiosity, but it's not a place to be curious in that angle. So I think that having such tool can be helpful for some people.
Yeah. And I think it's important to make the student and the industry know what dynamic is going on. Like for the industry, it's a privilege to have a student working for them. So if they discriminate against that student, they're on the losing end. And the student needs to do that, to know that like he's not hostage of the industry because he needs to get his internship. He's like a protected person in another industry, and like the school is backing them.
So, I mean, when we go to our inclusive queer networking events, there are no barriers or anything. People don't make any kind of assumptions about our gender, sexual orientation, or anything, because we are obviously a more inclusive environment. However, if you go to regular networking events, there are a lot of people who tend to just assume things, right, in the regular business world, let's say. So, 2 years ago, when I was actively looking for jobs after I graduated from my master's program, I would go to a lot of networking events, talk to people, mingle around, and of course, when we were in Montreal, where there's huge emphasis on being bilingual. Of course, at that time, my French was not that good. It's not that great today either, for that matter. But I was obviously talking to people and telling them, yes, I mean, I'm not bilingual. I speak English, and I'm multilingual otherwise, but I'm not bilingual in terms of Montreal. But I'm learning French and I'm making efforts to improve. So from a lot of people, I would get the same comment. Oh, do you know what's the way to improve your French? You should have a French girlfriend. Why not? And this, I would get this reaction from numerous people. So initially, I would just laugh it off, ignore it, but as I became more confident and bolder about being my authentic self, I would just answer back, why not a French boyfriend? I mean, like, why are you making an assumption that I'm straight or whatever, you know? Like, but yeah, okay, some people were pretty cool about it and they would apologize and the conversation would continue. However, I've had some really weird reactions as well when the conversation would completely abruptly stop, let's say, or the people or the person would react in a weird way and suddenly, you know, their attitude would change a little bit. And then the conversation wouldn't stay the same. So how do you react in that kind of situation? You know, where do you draw the line where you're actually looking to, let's say, develop those contacts and get an interview at a particular company where a lot of people are actually afraid, okay, you know, they would say that let me just get that interview and then maybe I'll be myself. But no, some people are not able to do that because they don't have the courage. So at that stage of networking, how do you figure that out to be your authentic self?
It's a long question that you had there. So if I understand well the question, so you go for an interview, right? Or network, any network, and they don't know your gender, they don't know your sexual orientation, right? But they make stupid comments, right?
Yeah,
typically.
I mean, they make assumptions, right? People
Yeah.
just tend to make assumptions about you and then try to figure it out, you know? And sometimes they can have a completely opposite reaction when you actually tell them about your sexual orientation. So how do you react to that while you're networking?
Yeah, I had to deal with a lot of type of different reactions in my different types of life, you know. Never been arrogant, you know. For me, is arrogance doesn't. I try to put humor into stuff myself. The humor helps. First of all, I'm not shy of what I am. I'm very proud of me. So I don't have any barrier. They make stupid comments, you know. I try to put humor and try to understand what does it mean, you know. Try to engage in intelligent conversations. But yeah, different ways, different.
My answer is probably not the most inspiring one, but when I used to seek a job, like to me it was like war. I needed to survive, I needed to not be homeless, to transition and everything. So I would just like lie or shrug it off. It was probably not good for my self-esteem and probably part of the reason why I'm a freelancer now. So I can just like tell a client to fuck off. If he's being unpleasant about my identity or my gender or the fact that I'm trans. So yeah, unfortunately, like we don't always have a choice, like to me. So, thank you. Lots of questions.
Hi, my French isn't that good, so I don't know that I caught all of what the two of you were saying, but I'm really interested to know, first of all, when you were transitioning, my question is for you, had you had any experience supporting or having trans folks in your life before this experience?
It was in fact my first experience. So even for me, it was a transition as well. So I may say that Marie helped a lot of people by doing her transition. So for many people, it's an evolution. So it was our first experience. In fact, at the company, Marie-Isabelle, if I'm not mistaken, it was the third
the third one.
The third person.
But it's a large company. So.
Yeah, so it was Marie in customer service. So in fact, in the aftermarket where we work was the first representative going through such transition. So yes, for a lot of people, that's why we emphasize on the educational portion of it. Because for some people, they did not know, so that's why a lot of people had questions and were feeling uncomfortable with it.
So my question is, So what do you think it was about the relationship that the two of you had that helped you sort of be in it together in the way that you were? And what would you say to people in terms of like what kind of relationship to be building?
So I'm not sure if I will answer the question, but Marie came to see me to have also allies, or like not allies, but support people to count on, because when you go to such transition, I don't know, I'm not in your shoes, but you probably feel alone, and just having people to support you, say, hey, I'm not by myself. I know in the room when they will announce it, I will have key players that I know I can count on to say I stand together with her, and I will be there when it really counts and when it really matters. So I think that just having that buy-in from some people might have helped, I guess.
Absolutely, So I had a few allies. We worked 12 hours a day, so we had some colleagues that we always together. So I was not working directly, but very often with him. But I had two other colleagues, a woman and a man, that could talk, and they were very, very comfortable with whatever I was, So it did help a lot to have friends like Nicolas and other people. And I tried some others, and you can feel like the shock. Then you go away from them. you just get close to the people who accept you to get some alliance.
So it sounds like you felt safe enough to go towards those people, and then you like stuck with them because you felt that they were responding well.
Yeah, you can feel, they're supporting you. You talk to them, and they have no judgment, and they just ask, questions, but not stupid questions, important questions. And some of the people that I was working with on a regular basis, they were very, very open to that. Even though some of the folks, they were the first experience, but they always related, okay, I've got homosexual, I've got lesbian, but they accept the diversity.
So we have a question. Let's go over there. This one?
Thank you so much. Hi. First of all, I just want to say your story made me very emotional, and that's amazing and so courageous. I would have actually typecast Pratt & Whitney as like a conservative, kind of institution, so it really debunked a lot of my assumptions. And my question actually, because I know that you are working independently, you often get your own, you're able to be more of an entrepreneurial role, and my question is more about the perspective of a larger organization, and what role you think the leadership maybe at Pratt & Whitney, or the culture of the organization, like companies like that size, or even Google, we're hosted so graciously by Google, like what role you think sort of taking care of people of different genders or queer people, what it has on that level, if you guys heard from anyone from that higher level of leadership, because obviously all of you here are leaders in your own right, you're reaching out and building these relationships, and it's so challenging, but in that role, because it's a huge culture, it's scaling so wide, what kind of, what was it about the leadership there that sort of made a difference? Not to,
So what leadership at a higher level might makes a difference in a company, right?
Yeah, and
What they had, was once a year. We're part of a big corporation, United Technology Corporations, Otis, Carrier, and many other companies in the, of course, aviation and engines.
And
technologies, it's large. And at the top, they have a diversity, they call it UTC diversity, that includes different culture, but also sexual orientation and gender, and the voices. They had a video conference last year, and it was, expressly said that it's beneficial. It's beneficial to have diversity in all the different facets of life. So it's coming from the high level in our group. I'm very proud of it to hear that. I'm not too sure that's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
It's a message coming from high management, and they want to impose. Doesn't mean that every manager adopts that, right? We are all different, but the message comes from high level. So one day everybody will adopt that, because that's what it is.
In French, we have, but I don't know if it's a right translation, but prêcher par l'exemple. So it's like to lead by example. I don't know the closest translation. Yeah. So when you have such leadership communications out there, then it helps to influence others.
Because if that experience in a startup, maybe with a culture that's still forming, wouldn't necessarily could have gone, a number of ways. So that's why it's interesting.
Yeah, and I want to offer the floor to David. Are you with BMO?
Yep.
So here's another perspective from a large company from the audience. So let's how would you answer the question?
Thank you. So I'm a senior advisor for inclusion and diversity at Bank of Montreal, and a lot of organizations, let's say, talk the talk, but might not always walk the walk, right? And if it doesn't come from the very top, if you don't have a convinced and enthusiastically supporting CEO and senior leadership, very often it ends up being only talking the talk. And then it becomes kind of paying lip service to the topic. So it's a very good question. If you don't have, if your senior HR folks, usually that's where the core passion about the topic lies, isn't able to really bring the return on investment and the passion of the topic into the ears of the CEO and its direct reports, it's much harder to really walk that talk.
And a good example that my company did, I was impressed. Who's Jason? Jason is not here? Jason QueerTech. I don't see him.
No, he had to leave.
So I did a speech 2-3 years ago at QueerTech, and Jason, one of the members of QueerTech, is he in the C? Any position that he has?
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's part of our leadership team.
Yeah. So he wrote a story about my story, on the web, and talk about the group of the diversity. Well, in Pratt & Whitney, U.S., in East Hartford, Connecticut, they saw, by any chance, that story written by Jason.
Wow.
And then they saw Pratt & Whitney, Canada. So they contacted Pratt & Whitney, Canada, to say, where is Mary Isabel, So they sent a team to make a short clip. So for one day, they followed me, and they made a video clip of about 4 minutes, and they put that on the 17th of May, was last year, I believe, or the year before?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. 2 years ago, all across the corporation, on their intranet, they call it. So it was kind of a clear message from the direction, like, my story is there, so they saw me before and after. So it's a message coming from high level.
Thank you, Marie. We are out of time so I'd like to formally conclude the panel. We have about a half an hour to mingle and continue the conversation, and you can talk to the panelists and talk to myself and talk to anyone. So I'd like to, first things first, give a huge round of applause for our panelists. Once again, I'd like to thank Google and Christine for hosting us tonight, and I'd like to thank Laurent at Fondation Emergence for partnering with us and raising awareness on these issues. Just one thing that I'd like to mention: QueerTech. We're a nonprofit right now, and I'd like to maybe invite Ricardo or Guy, if they're around, to talk about our initiative this summer called Pride Hacks. So if you would just allow 1 more minute of your time before we move on to the final phase of the evening. I guess both of them are here. Wow, good. So everybody, this is Ricardo, and I'd like you to talk about Pride Hacks.
Okay, hi everyone. So Pride Hacks, this is the 3rd year that we're going to be organizing Pride Hacks. For those, by raise of hands, who here has heard of Pride Hacks? Okay, so those of you that haven't heard about Pride Hacks is a hackathon that we host for the 3rd year in a row now, where we actually invite people to come over and do this year is going to be a day and a half of hacking, And the idea is we basically put challenges that are put forth by nonprofits in Montreal that work with the LGBT community and other communities. And the idea basically is they have sometimes technology issues. It might be a little bit obvious for people, especially that work in the tech sector. And it's basically just volunteer and help them with any issues. The idea is to have a solution that can be implemented, hopefully for free or at minimum cost, so that they can actually keep on delivering some of the great work that they do for our community. So there are going to be some communication that QueerTech is already going to be posting out around it. We will be, I also work for PwC, so I'll plug in that we're hosting it for the 3rd year in a row. And we're very happy to also be involved in this way and kind of like give back a little bit. So if any of you have questions, you can speak to Guy, who's over there, or myself. Whether you want to be a participant, we're also looking for project managers, so people that would want to kind of help out in implementing some of these solutions. So there's 2 things. People sign up, they work on a challenge, but then we also have to make sure that they're properly implemented for some of these nonprofits. So if you want to take on a little bit more of that role, please speak with us. And if you're associated to any nonprofits or you know of any nonprofits that might also want to participate, just give us a shout and we'll be here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So this then concludes our content portion of the evening. We do have about a half an hour to continue to network and to mingle and to continue the conversation. Don't forget that QueerTech in solidarity with Fondation Emergence, we're changing our banners throughout our social handles. So I encourage members of the QueerTech community, I encourage everybody that feels passionate about their campaign for this year to change theirs as well. And once again, thank you so much for your time tonight. Thank you.